Hi, so what we're going to do today is we're going to look at how to achieve your back bend and wheel. So we'll work through a little bit of mobility of the spine, we'll look at opening up, a little bit of strengthening, and then we'll get into our wheel and our bridge. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to allow our legs to fall over to the left-hand side. From here, we're going to look in the right direction, lifting up, and then we're going to switch to the opposite side. Now the goal of this is to encourage some twisting and some motion into the spine to start waking up the muscles. So to one side, and then the opposite side again. So I'd say roughly go about 3 to 4 times each side, just to twist and open up at that back. To start bringing ourselves up a little bit more, we're going to bring those knees into our chest, we're going to rock and roll. So imagine this is like you're waking up, you're massaging your lower back. And then once you're ready, we're going to bring ourselves up, and then over on to our front. So from here, what you want to think about is you want to try and get yourself into a tabletop position. So you want your wrists underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. From here, you're going to inhale, look up to the ceiling, cat. Exhale, head down, belly button to the sky. Inhale up. Exhale down. A few rounds of cat and cow. So we're twisting and opening up the back in the opposite direction now. So we went to the side, and now we're flexing and extending. Noticing on the mobility in your back. How does it feel? Beautiful. So from here, once we've started warming things up, we're going to start opening up our back a little bit more. So camel pose is a really good one to see where we're at to start with. So there's a few different variations with camel. Essentially what we want to do is we want to stick our hands onto our back. Now from here you want to extend your pelvis forward and arch backwards. So essentially place our hands on the back, lift up, then back. Now if this feels comfortable as it is, you can stay in this position. Now, if you want to extend this a little bit further, you can slowly start bringing your hands down your legs until you find your feet. Now, the aim is to push the pelvis forward, reaching, arching, allow the head to drop back. And then when you're finished and you want to come back, bring your hands back towards your legs, up your body, and then back we go. What I'd encourage is to do that a few rounds through. Notice if anything feels, tender or sore, and then trying to work through that mobility as well. So trying to allow your body to come up a little bit more, find that flexion and find that extension. In terms of exercises to strengthen as well, what I would do is I'd come down, and we've got 2 different strengthening exercises for your erector spinal, so your back muscles essentially is what you're going to be using along with your shoulders and your glutes. So a really good one to start with that you can do at home is simply called Superman, and as the name suggests, you want to do an impression of a Superman. So how it starts, you're coming down onto the floor. Now from here what you want to think about is lifting your upper body away from your lower body. So imagine you've got a string in the top of your head and you're pulling forward, and you've got a string coming out the back of your feet and they're pulling you backwards. So as we're lifting up and away, and then slowly down. Now whilst we're doing this, we're going to be engaging the glutes, engaging the quads, reaching as far forward as we can through the top of our head and through the soles of our feet. We're trying not to compress the spine, but instead use those muscles in our erector spina, so just down here to lift us up and back. So ideally you want to go for about 4 sets of about 8 to 10 reps. Now if it starts to feel as if you're working it and you're kind of feeling that tiny bit of tension, that's absolutely fine. If you start to feel anything that's kind of sharp or aggressive, that's when you want to bring it back down a little bit. For most people this exercise will be unfamiliar, so you will start to feel it quite quickly, but that's nothing to worry about at all. You're just using your lower back. So about 8 to 10 reps of that, and then 3 to 4 sets. Now another one which is really good, if this is absolutely fine for you, you can stay here. Another one called bow pose. So essentially bringing yourself back down to the floor. You're gonna bring your foot back and then your other foot back. Now this is kind of a more of an advanced pose, so to speak. So we're gonna lift ourselves up and away, push our feet away, lifting our chest up as high as we can, and then relaxing back down. Have a little break, and then same thing again. Lift the feet up, grab the tops of your feet, lift your head away from your feet, push those feet back. Lift up as high as you can, slight pause, and then back down. Same thing again. Now what I want you to think about is really trying to push your pelvis into the ground, lift the chest, lift the feet. Bring those feet back. Lift up, push those feet, push those feet, push those feet, and back down. Now this one I suggest doing slightly less reps. It's a bit more intense. You're gonna be working your core a little bit more. You're gonna be working on that shoulder mobility and flexibility as well. And you'll be engaging the muscles. Essentially, if you think about it, bow pose is similar to the wheel pose you'll be in, other than your hands will be behind your head instead. That would I would consider your warm-up and your strengthening exercises. To move into bridge, so before we go into the full wheel, what we want to think about is the action itself. So we want to work through the motions. So we want to start lifting up the pelvis ever so slightly. Pelvic thrust, squeeze those glutes, and then back down. So you want to think about going halfway here. Lifting up, and then back down. Now, something I like to think about when I'm doing this action as well, is you want to imagine someone pulling your shins forward, and down, up, and down. And if you notice with my back, I'm not going straight up, I'm working through the different sections in my spine. So the lower, middle, and then upper, middle, and then lower. So that's going to encourage you to not just jump straight in. Using our erector spinal, we want to use our glutes, we want to use our calves, we want to use all of our back body, our posterior chain, so that when we come into it, we're slowly getting there. What I would do is I would do about 4 to 8 rounds, squeezing the glutes. Imagine you're pushing your shins forward. Now once you've got that and your glutes are on fire, your quads are on fire, then what you can do is you can start coming into your first bridge. So from here, lift the pelvis up, squeeze, and then same thing in reverse. So we want the upper back, the middle part of our back, and then our lower untuck. Same thing, tuck the pelvis, lower, middle, upper, and back down. Now to extend this even further, and it also depends on the mobility in your shoulder, is when you come up, you can interlace the fingers underneath, tuck the shoulders, push the pelvis to the sky. Imagine someone is pulling your shins forward, squeezing the glutes, hold, and then when you're ready to come out, untuck the shoulders, place the hands by your side, upper, middle, and lower. Working your way back out. Same thing again. Lift, middle, upper, interlace, tuck, untuck, place the hands by the side, lower, back, down. Now, if we turn this into a wheel, you want the exact same action. All we're going to do is we're going to place our hands next to our ears. Now, bridge itself is quite a complicated exercise, and if that's something that you're comfortable with at the moment, that's absolutely fine to stick with it. If we're going to go into the wheel, we want to imagine we're planting our feet back into the floor as we've done before. Now, the only difference is we're applying a lot more force and pressure into our hands to lift us up, and it'll also depend on the mobility of your shoulders, which I'll look at in a second. So essentially, we're going to place our fingers pointing towards us. Same thing again, we're going to lift the pelvis, lower, middle, and back. Everything is exactly the same as bridge so far. Now the next step to this would be to place our hands, push into the floor with our hands on our feet, lift up, and then same thing coming down, except because our head is off the ground, we're gonna tuck our chin to our chest, place our upper part of our spine onto the back first, then we'll work our way through our back body and place ourselves back down. One more time. Lift the pelvis, up we go, push into the floor, chin to chest, upper part, middle part, lower part. And that's our wheel. In terms of other exercises you can do for this one as well, you might find some discomfort in your shoulders. There's a few different bits you can do for this. For opening up the shoulders for wheel, which you might feel some discomfort in, there are a few different methods you can use. You can use a pole, which you can probably find in most of your gyms, including Pure Gym, or you can find yourself a band, which we also provide. So if you have quite good mobility in your shoulders, one thing I suggest, grabbing either side of the bar, lift it up, bring the bar behind you, and then back over, like so. Keep the core engaged, pelvis tucked forward, up, and over. Now, if your mobility is less than that, which is absolutely fine, what you can do is you can do the same exercise, but with a band. As you can see, there's a lot more movement in the band, like so. Lift it up, bring it around the back, keep the core engaged, pelvis tucked slightly forward, lifting up and over, like so. With regards to how often you should be training in order to reach your bridge or your wheel, the stretching exercises can be done every single morning. They're really nice to do in bed half of the time as well. Really comfy, wake up, a good way to mobilize the spine and wake up. In terms of the stretching and strengthening exercises, you can add these to your general gym routine, whether that's in the morning, whether that's at home. 2 to 3 times a week will be more than enough. And you'll start seeing your results in about 3 to 4 weeks.